Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I'm in my late 40s, single, and until recently, child-free. I've always been career-oriented, and for most of my life, I poured my energy into building a stable, comfortable life for myself. I've worked hard and made good money, which has allowed me to enjoy life and be generous with the people I care about. Since I never had children of my own, I found joy in being the fun, doting aunt. My siblings, Tom, 42 male, and Ellen, 39 female, each have kids. Tom has 2 boys, ages 12 and 14, and Ellen has a daughter and a son, ages 10 and 8. I've always been close to my nieces and nephews, spoiling them with gifts, trips, and experiences their parents couldn't always afford. I've helped pay for their summer camps, bought them expensive gadgets, and even covered the cost of extracurricular activities when my siblings were struggling financially. 5 years ago, I set up a will leaving everything to my nieces and nephews. It felt like the natural thing to do at the time. They were the closest thing I had to children, and I wanted to ensure they were taken care of after I was gone. A few months ago, my best friend Grace gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, Lily. Grace and I have been friends for over 20 years, and she was like a sister to me. She and her husband, Matt, were overjoyed to become parents, and I was thrilled for them. But life can be cruel. Just a few weeks after Lily was born, Grace and Matt were involved in a devastating car accident. Matt passed away at the scene, and Grace was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. When I got the call, I dropped everything and rushed to be by her side. Grace was conscious, but knew her condition was dire. I'll never forget the look in her eyes when she grabbed my hand and begged me to take care of Lily. "Please," she said, "don't let her end up in the system. Don't let my family near her. She deserves better." Grace's family had a long history of aggression and neglect, and she'd worked hard to escape that cycle. She knew her relatives couldn't provide a safe or loving environment for Lily. Matt didn't have any close family members who could step in either. With the help of the hospital's legal team, Grace had a notarized document drawn up, naming me as Lily's guardian and expressing her wishes for me to adopt her. She passed away hours later, leaving Lily an orphan and leaving me with the responsibility of honoring her final wish. The transition from godmother to mother was overwhelming. I'd never planned to have children, let alone adopt a baby under such tragic circumstances. But the moment I held Lily, I knew I'd do whatever it took to give her the love and stability Grace wanted for her. The adoption process moved quickly given the circumstances, and within weeks, Lily was officially my daughter. She's now 9 months old, and she's the light of my life. Her giggles fill my home, and her wide-eyed curiosity has brought a joy I didn't know I was missing. Becoming a parent at this stage in my life has been challenging, but also incredibly rewarding. I've had to rearrange my priorities, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. As I settled into life with Lily, I realized my old will no longer reflected my reality. My nieces and nephews have 2 loving parents and stable homes. They have a safety net of family and resources to support them. Lily, on the other hand, has only me. If something were to happen to me, I wanted to ensure Lily would be taken care of financially. She's my daughter now, and it's my responsibility to provide for her future. After much thought, I decided to rewrite my will. I left everything, my savings, investments, and property to Lily. It wasn't an easy decision, but it felt like the right one. I thought it would be best to share this news with my siblings in person, so I invited them over for dinner. My plan was to explain my reasoning calmly and rationally, thinking they'd understand. After dinner, I sat them down and told them about the changes to my will. I explained how much Lily means to me and why I felt it was important to prioritize her future. The room went silent for a moment, and then all hell broke loose. Tom was the first to speak, and his reaction was immediate anger. "So you're just going to cut my kids out? After everything you've done for them? You're replacing them with some random kid." I tried to explain that Lily wasn't some random kid. She's my daughter now. But Tom wouldn't hear it. He accused me of betraying my nieces and nephews, who he claimed had always looked up to me as a second mother. Ellen chimed in, her tone colder but no less cutting. "This is unfair," she said. "Our kids have been part of your life for years. They love you, and now you're throwing them aside for a child who isn't even family? Her words stung more than I'd like to admit. I tried to tell her that I still love my nieces and nephews, but Lily is my responsibility now. Tom's response was a verbal punch to the gut. She's not even your real daughter. You're just playing house with someone else's kid. Don't forget where your loyalty should lie, with your family. Ellen, ever the passive-aggressive one, added, "The kids are going to feel abandoned. They'll wonder why their aunt doesn't love them anymore." I was shocked and hurt. I'd spent years pouring love and resources into their children, and now they were acting as if I'd turned my back on the entire family. Since that dinner, things have been tense. Tom has stopped speaking to me altogether, and Ellen sends me guilt-tripping texts almost daily. She's told me that her kids are devastated and feel like I don't care about them anymore. I've also heard through mutual relatives that Tom and Ellen are bad-mouthing me to the extended family. They've painted me as selfish, saying I've abandoned their kids in favor of some adopted baby. One comment that particularly broke me came from Ellen. She said, "You're not even a real mom. You're just pretending because it makes you feel good." I've wrestled with their accusations, but deep down, I know I made the right decision. My nieces and nephews have two loving parents who can provide for them. Lily doesn't. If something happens to me, she'll have no one else to rely on. This isn't about favoritism or abandoning my family. It's about fulfilling my responsibility as a parent. Despite the backlash, I'm standing firm. I love my nieces and nephews, and I'll continue to be there for them in every way I can. But Lily is my daughter, and it's my job to protect her and provide for her future. I wish my siblings could see that this isn't a betrayal. It's a reflection of how much my life has changed. But they're too angry to listen. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for changing my will to leave everything to Lily? First of all, Lily is OP's daughter. The fact that she's adopted doesn't make her any less OP's child, and her responsibility is to her now. OP's nieces and nephews have two parents to provide for them, while Lily only has OP. Ensuring her future is the most loving and logical thing OP could do. OP's siblings sound entitled. They benefited from OP's generosity for years, and now that OP has chosen to prioritize her own daughter, they're acting as if OP has betrayed them. It's not about abandoning their kids. It's about being a parent to OP's own. They're just upset that the gravy train has stopped. OP needs to stand firm, as she's doing the right thing. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. What your siblings are saying is cruel and completely out of line. Calling Lily some random kid and dismissing your role as her mother is incredibly disrespectful. They're upset because they've always seen you as their kid's financial safety net, and now that's changed. Honestly, their reaction says more about them than it does about you. If they truly cared about your happiness and Lily's well-being, they'd support your decision. Instead, they're making it about themselves. You're doing exactly what any good parent would do, taking care of your child. Don't let their guilt trip sway you. Not the a-hole. Your siblings seem to have forgotten that your money is yours to do with as you see fit. You've been incredibly generous to their kids over the years, and it's honestly shocking that they think they're entitled to your estate. Also, the way they're treating Lily is appalling. She's a baby, for crying out loud, and their comments about her not being real family are disgusting. You're her mother, and your first priority is to her, not to your siblings' egos or their financial expectations. Stay strong, OP. Lily is lucky to have you. Your priorities shifted when you became a mother, and that's completely natural. You're not abandoning your niece and nephews. You're simply ensuring that your daughter, who has no other safety net, will be secure. Your siblings should be proud of you for stepping up for Lily, not angry that they're no longer getting a free ride. Not the a-hole. Update. I wish I had a happier update, but things have only gotten worse. After the fallout from the dinner, my brother and sister have taken things to a whole new level. They're now forbidding their kids from seeing or speaking to me. I'm heartbroken. My nieces and nephews have been such a big part of my life, and I love them dearly. It feels like I've lost a part of my family overnight, and there's nothing I can do to fix it. I've tried reaching out to my siblings to find some common ground, but they won't budge. They're adamant that I've abandoned their kids and refuse to let them have any contact with me unless I put them back in my will. The worst part is that the kids probably don't even understand what's happening. I imagine that they're confused and hurt, and it pains me to think that they might believe I don't care about them anymore. I don't know where to go from here. All I can do is focus on Lily and give her the best life possible. But losing the connection I had with my nieces and nephews has left a hole in my heart that I'm not sure will ever fully heal. Thank you to everyone who offered kind words and support. It means more than you know. I'm 63 years old. I took advantage of better times, financially speaking, and managed to get enough money to save, have a good retirement, and leave a good inheritance for my children. However, their actions in recent years has broken my heart. My oldest daughter is a lawyer, married to an attorney. I have another son who is also a lawyer, a third who became an engineer, and the youngest who is a salesman. I've been a smoker for many years, and the predictable outcome has finally caught me, so I may not have many years left. After knowing this, my children began stabbing each other's backs, trying to get their inheritance earlier. Initially were frequent verbal discussions that escalated to legal battles. The boiling point came when my daughter forged her brother's signature to take their part of the inheritance while I was being treated at the hospital. Now none of the siblings can see each other in the eye and only talk through lawyers. Saddened by this situation, decided to spend the money, thinking that if all of it is gone, they would have no more reasons to fight. I donated to charities, bought my wife beautiful items, went on vacations with her, paying for the better-looking hotel rooms. No planes because of virus travel restrictions. Gave my grandkids expensive gifts, bought my dearest friends and colleagues better equipment to improve their work. We bought a huge TV, prepaid for my funeral, tested some fine whiskey, among other things. Right now, about 65 to 70% of my savings are gone now. I plan to keep enough for the time I have left and leave my wife a good cash amount. However, my children are noticing that I'm spending a lot and started to ask questions. My daughter figured out what happened on her own. I had no rebuttals, since I'm guilty of all the accusations she made. But then she mentioned that her children will suffer because of my selfish acts. Not only that, but I am cursing all of her grandchildren by doing this. That made me think that my grandchildren shouldn't be punished for their parents' sins, and maybe I was too self-absorbed to realize it sooner. That's my dilemma now. Not the a-hole. Hard not the a-hole. What'd she accuse you of? Spending your money that you earned on a life you wanted? Inheritance is what you get when someone dies. It's not yours. You're not entitled to it. You don't get to dictate what happens until you actually inherit it. You can, until the day you die, change up who gets what. You got one kid who's not being a jerk? Leave it to them. Or leave it to your grandkids in a trust their folks can't touch. You can roll it up and smoke it. It's yours. You've done nothing wrong. Hell, just leave it all to your wife. That's how it should go anyway. Are you saying an attorney, lawyer, engineer, and a salesman can't provide for their children and have to rely on inheritance? Tell them it's your money, and ultimately, you aren't responsible for your grandkids' future, and they should be saving up for them. Tell your kids to jog off and do one. Not the a-hole. Plenty of wealthy people choose to spend their money as you have. Some leave all the remainder to charity. No inheritance is owed to children. They can do the same thing you did, work hard and amass their own fortune. That being said, don't imagine that your decision to do this will heal their conflicts with each other. They've already shown that the money is more important to them than their relationships. 11 years ago, my 42 female husband, Will, 44 male, had an affair with a younger woman. He admitted it to me after she told him that she was pregnant, though it ended in a miscarriage. Until recently, I had no idea who she was, as he wouldn't say who she was. I've been working with Spencer, 41 male, for nearly 17 years, and we're best friends. There are no secrets between us, or at least that's what I thought. He's married to Eleanor, 33 female. They've been together for 9 years, married for 8. It has recently come up that Eleanor is the woman Will slept with. It came out because I had wrongly thought that Will was cheating again, and he countered with that it was possible for him to be friends with women and not sleep with them, as he was friends with Eleanor and hadn't slept with her again. He then admitted that Eleanor had been the one that he slept with. I was hurt that he hadn't said anything before we had become good friends with her, and allowing Spencer to get involved with a woman who was happy to sleep with married men. When I saw Spencer at lunch the following week, I told him about Eleanor and Will. Spencer wasn't shocked at what I told him. He already knew. He had known for 9 years. Eleanor had told him after the first time we had a double date. She was single at the time, and she had no idea Will was married. As far as Spencer was concerned, it was more Will that was at fault than Eleanor, but I see them as equally being at fault. Spencer said that he hadn't told me because he didn't see the point in opening up old wounds, as we all worked past Will cheating. Eleanor hadn't said anything for the same reason. I sent Eleanor an angry text telling her that I knew about her cheating with my husband and that I didn't want her coming around anymore. I told her that I didn't trust her and that she could have told me that she slept with my husband. Eleanor just replied with, "I understand, and I'm sorry for any hurt I've caused you and your family." She's not responded to any other messages I've sent her about wanting to know more about her cheating with my husband. We were meant to be having Spencer, Eleanor, and their kids around for Christmas, as it's our turn to host. Today I've told Spencer that I don't want Eleanor to come and have uninvited her. Spencer and the kids are still invited. He has said that if Eleanor is not welcome, then they will not be coming and thinks I'm being unreasonable. He also said he knows I'm upset but hopes that I can move past it. Will is upset that I've uninvited them, as he thinks it will ruin Christmas for our kids not getting to see their friends as planned. Plus, we have far too much food in for a family of 4. Will thinks I'm overreacting as I was fine with Eleanor before I found out. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to have Eleanor at our Christmas? I just don't think I can see her anymore, knowing she is the one my husband cheated with. Not the a-hole. Your husband has had 11 years to move on from this. Spencer and Eleanor have had 9 years to process this. You have not. You have just been sideswiped and betrayed again by knowing that the woman you trusted and befriended and trusted your husband with is also the woman he cheated on you with. All 3 of them have failed you by keeping this information from you 9 years ago when she first realized. I'm not going to blame her for the affair if she didn't know he was married when it happened. But she did know he was married when she met you, and she and Spencer together decided not to tell you and build a friendship. I don't see a comeback from this for you, Spencer and Eleanor, unfortunately. My comments on your marriage are also pretty negative. Spencer is obviously not going to keep coming around and bringing his kids around whilst his wife is banned. And I don't know why you're blaming her more than him or your husband anyway, as all 3 betrayed you in their omission. Not the a-hole. Quite frankly, your husband had no right to not tell you who he had an affair with way back then. Obviously, you wouldn't have become friends with this couple had you known. He allowed this friendship to grow and develop, knowing the truth the whole time. You're not overreacting, and the kids will get over not seeing their friends just this once. Don't ban your kids from being friends with her kids, but definitely have nothing further to do with her. Obviously, her husband and kids aren't going to come to get together without her. Consider donating excess food, before you cook it, to a local food bank if possible. You're the a-hole for blaming this woman for your husband's mistakes. If she was single and didn't know that your husband was married, what exactly did she do wrong? I guess she could have told you sometime in the last 9 years, but without more info from her, I'm inclined to give her the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps she thought you already knew, or decided to let your husband take the lead in the situation. I don't blame you for not wanting to be around her, but it really seems like you're misplacing the blame on her that really your husband deserves. I, 23 female, was an accidental baby. More accurately, a mistake my mom, 13 at the time, and dad, 14 at the time, made. On account of their age, my parents weren't ready to fully take care of me. In the end, it was decided I would stay with father and grandparents. He moved out after graduation, but I stayed so he could get on his feet and take me in later. I don't remember any of this, obviously, but that's the story I'm told. As you can imagine, I waited my whole childhood for him to be ready. My dad, the focus here, so I'm not even going to touch the bonfire that is my mom, would visit me a few times a week, spend a few hours, and always said he wasn't there yet, but soon he would. I just had to wait a little more. He was like a fun relative that would play with me and give me presents on special days, but never be there when I needed a dad or a friend. Something important to add is that my dad always asked me to call him by his name, not dad. He used to say best friends call each other by their name. Now, I kinda understand he was young and just wasn't ready. So, Adam. When I was 15, Adam stopped having roommates and talked to me about moving in with him and being together. At this point, I was mad about everything, so I told him no. He respected my wishes but started spending more than a few hours a week with me. When I moved out for college, the distance kind of got in the way, and we stopped talking as much as we were in my last years of high school. Then, when I was around 18 or 19, Adam met my future stepmom, and in one of my visits home, he introduced us. She already had kids from a previous marriage. They were very young. We quickly got along, and she became a bridge to Adam. I would talk to her about how much I wanted this to work out, but everything was holding me back, and she helped him to improve into being the person I needed. Fast forward to now. I'm already back from college and live by myself. I was at their house Sunday at lunch, and my stepsister, 8 female, came to the kitchen and said, "I need a dress, Dad." And hearing this just broke something in me. I didn't want to cause a scene or have this fight in front of my step-siblings, So I just said I forgot I had something to do and had to leave right now. When Adam called me asking what happened, I just couldn't hold myself and broke down. I told him he didn't care about me if he didn't allow me to be the first person to call him dad, and that I hated him for deciding that not in mine, but in someone else's childhood, that he was ready to go dress shopping and helping her every day, but for me, he just wasn't there yet. We haven't spoken since, but my grandparents called me and said I was an a-hole for still holding over his head something he did when he was so young, and now I had broken his heart saying all of this. But he changed, and I should not have done that. Am I the a-hole? You are absolutely not the a-hole for having these feelings. Yes, he was a kid too, but when you were 7, he would have been what, 21? I know of many early 20s folks who got married and had kids. It is still young, but at the very least, he could have let you call him dad and been a bit more than a buddy. It sounds like his parents enabled him in some ways, but it is hard to know. He was young, but you were a child, a baby. Even after 10 years, he still couldn't get it together, and you are allowed to be hurt and upset about that now. He should be able to hear and accept your big feelings without running and hiding behind his own parents again. It sounds like he still needs hand-holding to do the right thing if his partner is the one doing the work to make him be a real parent to you. Not the a-hole. Your feelings are entirely valid here. Your father is still trying to grow into the father role and is still a long way off. He has not taken your feelings seriously. When was the last time you sat down with your dad and talked to him about this? Has your stepmom talked to him about this issue? You need therapy, as does your father. My mother-in-law is going through a separation with her husband, my wife's stepdad. As a result, she has moved out of their house and is currently bouncing around from family member to family member. She's been doing this for about 6 months. She stayed with us for about 2 months of that time, spread out over 3 visits. This has caused some stress on our marriage as I don't do well with extra people in my living space. But my wife feels bad for her mom because she was fully dependent on stepdad and doesn't have a job or a place of her own anymore. For Christmas this year, we were going to spend Christmas Eve with my wife's family at my wife's aunt's house and then come home and spend Christmas Day at our house as a family. But now my mother-in-law has asked my wife if she can come home with us after Christmas Eve and spend some more time with us over the holidays. I told my wife that spending Christmas Day at home as a family, alone, was her idea, and we agreed on it together. But she said she doesn't want her mom to be alone on Christmas. I told her that her mom was planning on staying at her aunt's place, but is only now wanting to come home with us. It started to turn into an argument about mother-in-law needing to get her life figured out, and my wife told me to stop fighting about that, because that part isn't important, and she just wants her mom to feel like she's still part of a family during Christmas. So I eventually relented and said that mother-in-law can come with us for Christmas, but I have conditions. I said that mother-in-law can come home with us if she agrees to watch our 2 kids for New Year's weekend, so that my wife and I can go do something fun with some friends, or alone if we want to, get a hotel, or Airbnb, who knows. My wife said that her mom is not a free babysitter, and that we can't expect her to just watch our kids for us whenever we want. I told her that if mother-in-law isn't a babysitter, then we aren't a hotel, and if she's going to keep going from house to house being dependent on people, she's going to have to pull her weight if it's going to be our house she's staying in. My wife said she won't ask her mom to babysit our kids for free for an entire weekend, so I said in that case, she and mother-in-law can stay home with the kids, and I'll find something fun to do for New Year's Eve weekend by myself. My wife said I'm being selfish, and that mother-in-law is going through a hard time in her life and she needs family support. She said I'm being a jerk by making that support conditional on mother-in-law doing things for us, instead of just doing it because we want what's best for her. She said that if I leave to do something on my own for New Year's, then I will have to be the one to explain to our kids why I'm not there to bring in the new year with them. I told her that I have no problem talking to our kids about that, but I won't tell them the whole truth, that their mom is putting mother-in-law ahead of our family and relationship. She called me an a-hole and has been cold with me ever since. Not the a-hole at all. She's been bouncing around from house to house for 6 months. It's not like this separation is a completely fresh wound that she hasn't had any time to process yet. If the divorce had been more recent, I might agree with the "you're the a-hole" response. It's probably time she started figuring out what her permanent housing solution is going to be. It's completely reasonable to start asking for some favors in exchange for your trouble at this point. Also, she is going to need a place to stay for New Year's Eve anyway, so is it really that unreasonable? I personally don't think so. Not the a-hole. It's not really a big ask of the mother-in-law, and your wife doesn't seem to want to compromise on anything. It seems like she always gets the last say, and her decision is final. You offered a compromise to the mother-in-law staying for Christmas, even after plans had already been made, and your wife is being difficult. For all anybody knows, your mother-in-law might actually love the idea of having her grandchildren all to herself for a weekend. Your wife is not only making decisions for you, but doing it for her mother too. You're not the a-hole, but your wife is being one. Not the a-hole. I get your mother-in-law is going through a tough time. Based on the reaction by your wife, she is very protective of her mother. I've seen this first-handed. Tell your wife, if you want to pay her to babysit, let's pay her. But if we are going to treat her not as family, rent is X, utilities are Y, and food cost is Z per month. For context, 4 years ago, when my daughter was 12, she desperately wanted a pool. She said that all of her friends had pools, and she was the only one who didn't have one. Plus, she loved swimming. She insisted that she would use it daily in the summer. My husband and I could afford one, but as I'm sure some of you know, pools are very expensive, and neither of us really like swimming, so we wanted my daughter to understand the cost she was asking for. We made an arrangement that we would install a pool, but that once she was old enough to start working, she would pay us back for half of it. She quickly agreed. Well, flash forward to now. She's 16 and got her first job, and now she wants to save up for a prom dress she really likes. I reminded her of our agreement about the pool, and she no longer wants to uphold her end of the agreement. I insisted, threatening to take away phone and car privileges if she doesn't pay her father and I back. Now she won't speak to me. My husband is agreeing with her, saying that we can't have honestly expected a 12-year-old to keep her end of the agreement. For me, this isn't even about money. It's about teaching my young daughter the right morals to live with. I don't want her to think she can just go around making deals for her benefit and then just not upholding them. Am I the a-hole? You got a verbal agreement with a 12-year-old for thousands of dollars and are now trying to enforce it? Seriously? 4 years later. The right morals to live with are that 12-year-olds cannot legally enter contracts. That's the moral. You're the a-hole, and just very, very misguided. You're the a-hole. At first, I thought her end of the deal would be to clean the pool and keep it up, not pay for ducking half of it. Who in their right mind makes a deal like that with a 12-year-old? Unless you're going to give her equity of the house when you sell it in the future, get over yourself with this. My God, this is one of the most ridiculous things I've read in here. You're the a-hole. That was a ridiculous bargain to strike with a 12-year-old. You understand the value of money, and a 12-year-old couldn't possibly. You are a double a-hole. First, for making such an agreement, and second, for trying to enforce it.